So let's talk about this problem. Subarray sum equals k. Let's see what this problem states. So we are given an array nums and integer k. We have to return total number of subarrays whose sum equals. If you see this example, there is 111 given and we have to return 2, which is all the possible subarray sum which is equals to this k. So there are two possible things that we are returning. Now let's see the brute force. So first we declare a variable count. We can initiate a for loop which is iterating over the whole array. Now we can introduce the sum variable to make the sum. Also we can initiate our second for loop which will help us to identify all the possible sub array. We can sum of all the sub array, one by one. We can just check if it is the sum is equals to k or not. Once it's k, we increment the count. At the end we return the count. This is the very easy solution because this is brute force, and let's try to run this. It is giving you 2, which is what is expected from our given input. Now let's try to optimize this. So as you seen, there is inner loop within that. If you see this again, this is an inner loop which is running, and we can optimize this because as you know, one loop is required for iterating over the array. So why not just we can use one loop and optimize the other one. So for doing that, we need this hash map so that it will keep on track of every possible subarray sum, and at the end we will just receive the count of that subarray. We can declare these two variables prefix and count and initiate as 0. We can have a for loop that will just iterate over this array simply, and while iterating we will just keep on incrementing the prefix. So as you can see, we are taking one variable prefix and we are just keep on iterating the array and incrementing it with each element that we found at that point. So in this way you might observe that prefix is the one variable which contains sum up to a certain point. So it will give you a sum from starting to a certain point at every point of time. So how can we use that thing? We can create a variable target and we can use this simple formula. So if I can just show you what this is doing, is this is just decrementing the k every time from the prefix and assigning it to target, so that every time we will calculate a target and try to find out that target into the map. So this is the map. We try to find out if target exists or not. Once it exists, we can just increment the count, getting the value of that target. So target here work as a key for that map, and its value will work as the value pair of the map. Now as you can see, this is the main logic of this problem, and at the end we can just put back or put the prefix in the map. So I hope you are getting the idea, because if you see prefix, as I already told you, prefix is the one variable which is containing value or sum up to a point, and if we subtract that prefix from a target, which must be the value from initial to some point, we will get a sub array from target to the current prefix. So this is finding the gap which matches with k, but we use that formula in the way that every time we will just calculate the target. So if you see, if we just move this target in place of k and move this k in place of target, you can think of that formula that we are subtracting prefix with a target to get that k. So instead of working with the target, as we already calculating the prefix and we have k, so why don't we just calculate the target? Simple math, right? So this is the heart of problem you must have to understand, and this is just incrementing the count of the prefix that we later on try to find out with target, and at the end we just return the count. So if we run this, is solving our problem. Let's try to run this in LeetCode. LeetCode is here. Let's paste this, run a simple test case. This should pass. Yeah, passing. Submitting this. It is submitted, beating 77% of the program. Yeah. Now you got the idea, right? But you just have to make sure that you should understand these two lines, because this is where this pattern works. If you didn't understand, tell me in the comment. I can make separate video with a real world example to explain you this particular thing in order to understand the prefix sum. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.